Each and every Thursday, sportsmemo.com goes back in time and you can daily pick packages priced at only $5. And yes, for those wondering, that includes 5% best bets, normally priced at $30. This is the real Throwback Thursday. As an added bonus, all first-time customers will be credited $25 in WagerBucks after their initial $5 purchase. So each and every Thursday, make sure to go to sportsmemo.com and get best bets from the hottest cappers for only $5.
All right, here we go, guys. Welcome in here to the Thursday edition of the College Basketball Tip-Off Show, powered by WagerTalk.com. Loaded is not a strong enough word to describe what we got going on in college hoops today. Plenty of action. Some games already underway. Many more to get to. 4 games, in fact, we're going to go ahead and break down on this show for you. Those games will include, we're going to talk Butler, Creighton. We're going to look at Texas Tech taking on Texas. Penn State, Wisconsin, and we'll end it with North Carolina and Virginia Tech. And, of course, the news of the day is Duke not being able to move forward. They're out of the ACC. They're out of the tournament. First time in 24 years. But, heck, I don't think anybody was going with Duke today anyway. Let's meet the gentlemen that are going to help you make it an extremely profitable Thursday. Here they are. Marco D'Angelo in the house, Dave Koken back in action, and of course, Steve Merrill, 2 R's and 1 L, stepping up here for Ralph today. Take a look at these Twitter handles as well, guys. A lot of good information here, a lot of fun stuff for you. At Marco in Vegas, at Steve Merrill, at Dave Koken. And Marco, what a fun Thursday this is, man. We are up, we're ready to go. Some games, including Oklahoma State taking down West Virginia. Ball State losing a close one in overtime. It's a lot going on here today, Marco. What do you got going on at WagerTalk.com?
Well, I got one game. It's tipping off this afternoon shortly within the hour. You can check that game out. And I'm going to have a game. Didn't post it yet.
Wow.
But I have a game on the Thursday night card that I like a lot. Just didn't get a chance to write up the play yet. That'll be loaded right after the show. And I got to say, I'm a little disappointed about Duke getting postponed today because I was ready to unload on Florida State as everybody else was. I wasn't drinking the Duke Kool-Aid.
Yeah, unfortunately, we will never know. First time in 24 years. Dave, talk to us, my friend. What do you got going on today at Wager Talk?
Well, I got to mention last night first because I had a 5% play, and those have been so good. But this one wasn't. You go back a couple of years, I haven't had one this bad. Providence was just a terrible pick against DePaul. Never had a chance in that game. They have a glimmer of hope late in the first half, but they just got run out in the second half. It was an awful selection, and I had a bad night in basketball. The hockey was great, swept the board. As far as that goes, I have a best bet in the NHL tonight. I had a 3-pack up in basketball, but one of those games is tipping in like 1 minute, so a little bit late to get that. There's still a free play that's available, and I'm going to talk about that as the best bet on this show. So looking to get the basketball back on track and looking to keep the hockey where it is.
All right, good stuff there, guys. Don't forget, you can head over to WagerTalk.com, Marco's page, Dave's page, and this guy's page, Steve Merrill in the house, 2 R's, 1 L. He also has an opportunity if you head over to WagerTalk.com, get himself $30 off a package he's rolling. So, Steve, how's it been, man? You're continuing to dominate in college basketball. And what do you got for tonight here at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, Joe, number one in Wager Talk this year in college hoops has been a great season, obviously. 101% return on investment after 3 months. We've doubled the bankroll in college basketball in just 3 months, 58-30 entering Thursday. And I do have a strong best bet. It's on the nighttime card, so viewers have plenty of time to get this strong play on Thursday night. And that promo code, I used it earlier this week on Wager Talk today, but I'm going to use it on this show as well. Dunk30, $30 off the rest of the college basketball season. It was $2.99. We took it down to $1.99 on the website. You could take it down even further to $169. The rest of the college basketball season, all the way through April's NCAA finals, for just $169. But you have to have that promo code Dunk30 right now at WagerTalk.com.
All right, guys, it's no reason not to make it a profitable Thursday here. Games already underway, plenty still to come throughout the day in college hoops. And, of course, we're going to start with one that we're getting ready for a little bit later, too, in the Big East. How about Creighton, guys, taking on Butler in a matchup here? This is 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Creighton opens up as an 11-point favorite. Total also opened up at 135.5. And, Marco, I'm going to come to you first here. This Creighton team has been an interesting team so far this year. We know they can score some points. Butler coming off of that win last night here. Who do you like?
Well, the knee-jerk reaction in this one, Joe, is to jump on Creighton. After all, Butler played last night. Not only did they play last night, they had to go to overtime. Well, I was quite happy with the result last night because that was one of my top plays was Butler. And I'm going to use my momentum theory here. They've already got a game under their belt playing in the Big East tournament. And it was a game that gave them all the things that they might encounter in a game. They were involved in a tight game. They were in a game that went to overtime. So they've got all the pressure out of the way. I think they're free rolling into this one against Creighton. And you look at Creighton, they might be a little cocky coming into this one, they just beat Butler by 20 points last week. Now, I want to note that when they beat Butler last week, they caught Butler coming off the upset of Villanova. Maybe they were still celebrating that big win. I think you're going to see a different result this time around. Can they pull off the upset? I'm not going to go that far, but I think this one's going to be much closer than people think. I like Butler plus the points here against Creighton.
All right. Dave, they split them during the season here, but what gives? Who do you like in this matchup?
I really don't like laying a large number of points here with a team that's already in. Creighton is, if they win this tournament, I guess it's nice, but they've got bigger fish to fry, waiting to find out who they're going to be playing in the NCAA tournament. Butler, the next loss they have ends their season. That's it for them. So you're going to get a tremendous effort from the dog, and they've got nothing to lose. And I do think the number's a shade high. I made it 9. So I'll say there's a little bit of value on the Butler side. If you're matching them up, Creighton's clearly the vastly superior team, so you can't make a case as far as that goes. But I'll ride along with Marco and say that at this number, I would lean to the underdog.
Going to the underdog, Madison Square Garden, 6 p.m. Tonight for this game here, guys. And Steve, with that split and Butler playing some pretty good defense, they're going to need it tonight here if they're going to take down Creighton.
Yeah, Joe, I actually had a strong best bet last weekend on Creighton for my clients last Saturday, laying the 12.5 at WagerTalk.com. I really liked the spot last week. They won that game by 20, but that's not the situation here that both Dave and Marco have mentioned. If anything, I'd be leaning towards Butler as well, just because the fact Creighton just beat them by 20. And Dave brings up an excellent point. Creighton doesn't have to win this conference tournament. I almost feel like it hurts teams sometimes to make a 3 or 4 day run and then have to turn around and play in the big dance just 5-6 days later. So this was a great spot for Creighton. They were a strong best bet winner for me just 5 days ago, but that will not be the case tonight. And I would lean towards Butler. And point out, Butler plays at one of the slowest paces in the country. So that also means fatigue a little less likely here after that big win last night, like you might see with an up team. So I think Butler will be okay still in this back-to-back. And Creighton definitely could come in a little bit flat, looking ahead to bigger things.
Yeah, no, it's
just mention one thing. And this goes back a long ways. And I won't mention the coach's name that said it because he's still around. But one of the points he made was that he didn't have a problem at all if his team lost early in the conference tournament because he didn't want them to go through a 3 or 4 game stretch in rapid fire succession and then have to come back 3 or 4 days later in the NCAA tournament. You lose a game, it doesn't really matter, and you've got a whole week off. It's actually, in a sense, beneficial to a powerhouse to lose an early round game as far as the NCAA tournament's concerned. And that plays into why I don't like taking these big favorites in these conference tournaments. It looks like they should be good plays, especially against a team that might potentially be tired because one team has the bye, the better team has the bye. But it really doesn't work out that way. The intensity just isn't there. I'm sure that coach isn't the only coach who had those feelings about these conference tournaments.
Great point, Dave. Absolutely. We've got it. Well, it's true with teams that have already, they know they're heading into the dance, maybe get the loss out of the way sooner rather than later, obviously. And that's going to be an interesting game here tonight in the Big 12 as well, as we've got Texas taking on Texas Tech. You got a total opening up at 136. You've got Texas Tech as the small favorite, -2. I'm seeing 1.5s. In many places. I'm also seeing 134.5, so the total has come down a little bit. Dave, these two teams know each other pretty well here, so heading into this matchup, which side are you favoring?
I guess Texas Tech. I mean, I took a long look at this game, and I do make Texas Tech the right side on my number. They're not in great form, though. I'm not really all that enthused about the way they're playing. And the same thing can be said for Texas. It kind of looks like, the peak team might be Oklahoma State right now. They just knocked off West Virginia today. They look like they might be the hot entry here in this tournament. You can make a case that Kansas was, but they've lost a key player that could give them a problem tonight against Oklahoma. Baylor, we talked about gigantic favorites. I mean, I would take Kansas State in that game against Baylor. Baylor's got no reason to care about the game. This one, I think, is the rivalry battle tonight where you do get the intensity out of both teams. It's still a very tough call for me. I guess I'll trust my number, which indicates Texas Tech. Not strong enough to make my card, but it is a game I considered.
Steve, how do you look at it? You got two top 20 teams going at it. One team swept the other team during the regular season. Game number 3 here. Who do you like in it?
Yeah, it's a game I talked about a few weeks ago in my weekend video, my top 25 matchup video here when these two teams played on, I believe it was February 27th, the end of the month, a few weeks ago. Texas did lose that game as a 4-point dog. One thing that jumps out to me, of course, is Texas Tech, once again, a half-court slow-down team. I always look to play on those type of teams in tournament time, especially the big dance next week, but also in conference tournaments, as I referenced with Butler earlier. Keep in mind, Butler made that Final Four, that finals run a decade ago, back-to-back years, is a big Cinderella story. They play that slow half-court pace. Texas Tech is the slower team here. Texas could play that way, but they prefer a more up-tempo style. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Texas Tech had their number this year. You do worry about them maybe overlooking the game a little bit before that reason, but the fact they lost to Baylor last Sunday, I think the Red Raiders will come out focused. My concern, though, with Texas Tech in this matchup and just in general this year, they have not been stepping up against class teams. Other than beating Texas, they struggled. They lost to Baylor. They lost to Oklahoma State. They lost to Kansas. They lost to West Virginia, all within the past month. So I'm not sure the Red Raiders are going to make that Final Four run like they did a couple years ago in the NCAA tournament, but they still have a good half-court defensive style that can be very dangerous in these settings.
How much do you trust them to get the third win here in this matchup tonight there, Marco?
Well, that's going to be the narrative with most people because it is a rivalry. They're going to say, hey, it's so hard to beat the same team 3 times in one season. And we have found that the numbers have shown that, yeah, they can. And Texas Tech has actually had Texas's number the last few years. They've won 7 of the last 8 meetings. Before that, it was all Texas. But I look at this one, and I've had trouble looking at both of these teams. As Steve just said, Texas Tech hasn't done well when they've stepped up. Well, Texas finished the season on a 6-2 run. So you might say, hey, maybe they got a little bit of momentum. But if you go back and look at the 6 wins, 4 of those wins came against TCU twice, Kansas State, and Iowa State. Those are the 3 bottom teams in the Big 12. So when I got, contrary stuff on both sides, what do? I'm going to go look at the total. And the key point is Texas Tech does like to play a slower type game. So we know what they want to do. And then I found a nice little stat concerning the coach of Texas, Shaka Smart. When he's playing with revenge, and in this case it's double revenge, since he's been the head coach at Texas, how about this? 25-7 to the under. That's where I'm going tonight. Let's take Texas Tech, Texas under the total.
All right, going to under in that matchup. Good stuff there, guys. And don't forget, Marco locked and loaded at WagerTalk.com here. You can head over there, visit his page, as well as Dave Koken and Steve Merrill. Don't forget to use that code DUNK 30 at checkout there with Steve, and give yourself an opportunity to get every one of his plays now through the national championship. Guys, let's head over to the Big Ten. Penn State taking on Wisconsin in this matchup, and Wisconsin opens up as a 6-point favorite. I'm seeing 5.5s. The total opened up at 134. I am seeing 135s in there. And Steve, I'll come to you. It's the pressure on Wisconsin. Penn State really nothing to lose at this particular point. How do you approach it?
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin's another one of those teams I usually look to play come postseason, just like we talked about Butler and Tech, one of the slowest half-court defensive teams in the country. But also like Texas Tech, who I just talked about, this is a Wisconsin team that has definitely not stepped up this year. They've definitely struggled against better teams. They're just 1-5 straight up the last 6. And those basically have all been good teams because it's the Big Ten where everybody's been good this year. Some powerhouses. But they lost to Iowa. They lost to Illinois. They lost to Iowa. They lost to Michigan. The other one was against Purdue. They were actually an underdog in that game as well. So this is a huge class relief here. The last favorite of more than 4.5. Actually, that was the Illinois game. But they were a 5.5-point favorite against Northwestern, beat them by 17. That's the only win over the last 6. You go back, they beat Nebraska by 13 as an 8.5-point favorite. And then you go back a couple games, they beat Penn State by 16, tonight's opponent, as an 8.5-point favorite. So they have done well against weaker teams, and I think they match up well here. Keep in mind, they lost a game at Penn State at the end of January. Then we had a quick turnaround spot in which they beat them, as I mentioned, by 16. So I like Wisconsin in this spot. I'm not sure big picture like Tech can make a run this year in the postseason, even though they're always dangerous with that half-court defensive style. But this looks like for them to snap that 3-game losing streak tonight.
Got Penn State, an underdog here. Marco playing on adrenaline, nothing to lose. They got to win the tournament in all likelihood to get to the dance. So how do you approach this game tonight?
Well, I'm going to agree with Steve as far as the game goes and go with Wisconsin, but I'll say this much and make the note. They're playing in Lucas Oil Stadium. This is a football field they're playing in. So the sight lines are going to be way different. If you do have any interest in Penn State, I think it would be the better play is to take Penn State in the first half. They got a game under their belt in the arena. They're able to, the sight lines, they might come out a little quicker with this, and the fact that Wisconsin does play at a slower pace, points will be at a premium in the early going. So maybe a small lean Penn State first half, but to elaborate a little bit more on what Steve said about what Wisconsin has done against the better teams, they've struggled. Well, those 4 games that they just lost, those are the top 4 teams in the Big Ten. We know the Big Ten is, one of the best conferences, if not the best, but they did play the absolute 4 best teams. On the flip side to that, you got Penn State, who's won 4 out of 5 games coming in here, but the 4 wins have come against Nebraska twice, Minnesota, and Maryland. Minnesota and Nebraska are the 2 bottom teams in the Big Ten. So use one of my horse racing backgrounds. We got one team stepping up in class, and we got another one moving down in class. I like to bet on horses moving down in class and get the win, and that would be Wisconsin. So full game, I'm on Wisconsin in this one.
All right, and Dave, the market seems to be giving the edge to Penn State here. Is it the numbers moving a little bit closer to them? Do you agree?
Not really. I mean, I can make a case for Penn State because, as Marco pointed out, they've got at least a game under their belts in a peculiar shooting venue. But they're just not very good. I've said all year Wisconsin's overrated, and I'm not backing off that. And they might be a team I'll be, depends on the matchup, obviously, but they could be a team that could be fade worthy in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. But I just don't know that Penn State's got the stuff to step up and hang with them for 40 minutes. I think Marco gets it right as far as if you're looking at Penn State take the first half. I think full game, I'd probably lean to the Badgers to eventually put this one away and win by 8 or 9 points. But they're just not a team I'm real impressed with.
All right, guys, there you go. One more game on the board here. We'll talk about the ACC. We'll talk a little North Carolina and Virginia Tech. We've also got some best bets coming up, but this game is interesting, guys. Opened up at 140 for a total, and North Carolina getting the edge as a 3.5-point favorite. And Marco, I'm going to come back to you here and get your thoughts on both of these teams. It's an interesting matchup. North Carolina, do you agree with the number? Let's start there in this 8:30 p.m. matchup.
Well, I don't, Joe, and I'll go brief on this one because I'm going to talk about this one a little bit more later in the show. It's going to be my best bet, but I will give you a few things here as far as the total goes now. My best bet's going to be on the game itself. North Carolina, I mean, they put up 101 points last night. The knee-jerk reaction is everybody's going to run to the window and, want to look to the over. North Carolina scoring points left and right, and that might be the way to go here. Not so. North Carolina's 0-7 against the spread after back-to-back wins by 10 points or more the last two seasons. And when they're coming off a blowout win, 20 points or more, the last three seasons, a perfect 6-0 to the under. And I can tell you, Virginia Tech's not going to run with this team. They're going to want to frustrate North Carolina and get them into that half-court game. And Virginia Tech is going to be one of those teams where you got to answer the question of the COVID pause, how they're going to react. They're going to be fresh. And the one thing about when they were off, they didn't miss any practice. They didn't have anybody test positive. They were able to keep their routine going, other than they haven't played any games in a while. But we've seen a lot of these teams come off the COVID break and respond well. And we've seen some do the other way too. But surprisingly, we've seen more teams play well that first game off the pause. I'll say I lean to the under in this game, but I do have a strong play on the side, and it'll actually be a client play as well.
Dave, taking a look at the WagerTalk.com live odds page here, and we've talked about it, and you've pointed out tickets versus money. And the thing that stuck out to me is we've got 79% of the tickets, almost 60% of the money. This line hasn't moved, Dave, at all here. So how are you going to approach this game, if at all?
Well, look, I mean, North Carolina is off what amounts to a perfect game. They had the perfect opponent, too. Notre Dame cannot match up with North Carolina, and the Tar Heels exploited them on both ends of the court. They were too big, too fast, too athletic. They're not going to have those edges here against Virginia Tech. The layoff is the main concern for me. I've at this point gotten to the point where I just throw out the games that involve these long layoffs. Virginia Tech's played 2 games in a month. And I don't know how to handicap that. It's just one of the unique things to this season that I had some opinions on it early, and they didn't work out. And eventually I just got to the point where it's like, you know what? I'm just going to eliminate these games. So I'm not playing the game. But I can tell you this. The price of the game is clear value on Virginia Tech. They're probably the better basketball team anyway. And North Carolina off a perfect game has got everybody excited. The Tar Heels are back. I don't know. I would take a 3.5 with Virginia Tech.
Yeah, it always seems North Carolina fans amazing. They're cricket, Steve, throughout the entire season. Now all of a sudden they're going to the national championship. So how do you approach this game between Va-Tech and North Carolina?
Yeah, it worked out for me yesterday, or last night rather, because I had one best bet on Wednesday at WagerTalk.com. That was North Carolina last night, laying the 6.5, and they won the game by 42. But I like that matchup. As Dave said, it's a totally different story than the matchup tonight. I'm not ready to jump on North Carolina here in the back-to-back. Virginia Tech will slow this game down, I believe. The layoff concerns me, but after that, long layoff, they did get to play 2 games at the end of February, but they have now been off for another week and a half since. They lost against Georgia Tech after the 2-3 week layoff. They came back and played well against Wake Forest, played very well, actually won by 38. But now they've been off for another week or so. So it is a little bit of uncertainty there, which is enough to keep me off this game. But if Virginia Tech plays to their normal level, I would like the Hokies here. I think they can slow this game down. And I love to play against North Carolina when games get slowed down. They're on a 2-game win streak, but they played Notre Dame and they played Duke fast the game before that. Florida State doesn't mind playing fast. They beat them as well. Syracuse, zone defense, they lost that game in between. So it's pretty easy for years now with Roy Williams at the helm. It's play against UNC when you get a slow down half-court team, and Virginia Tech fits that mold. I just don't know if they're going to be 100% tonight. If they are, though, I think this could be a tough spot for the Tar Heels.
All right, good stuff there, guys. We've got some best bets we're going to get to. Do want a quick reminder, though. Make sure you head over to WagerTalk.com. Steve Merrill, he is ready to go right now. You can have the opportunity to hop on and get everyone an all-access pass for Steve using Dunk 30. That's a $30 discount for the rest of the college basketball season right through the national championship. Marco, locked and loaded at WagerTalk.com here. Make sure you hop on and grab his best bet. And as well as Dave, he's ready to go. Absolutely been crushing it in NHL as well, guys. Definitely worth visiting them, all three of these guys, at WagerTalk.com. All right, we'll start with our friends from the Gold Sheet here, Best Bet Time, and see exactly where they're going. And they're looking at Oregon taking on Arizona State. And it looks like 8.5, somewhere around that ballpark at the moment. It's been kind of bouncing back and forth between those, but it looks like Oregon is definitely placed. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm seeing 9.5s right now as the love for Oregon continues to pour in. And don't forget, guys, you can get this full write-up by heading over to Twitter and checking out the Wager Talk Twitter page. You can find this and all the other Gold Sheet plays of the day. You can get the full write-up there. All right, Marco, I'm coming back to you because you teased us here. You talked a little total. Now talk to us about a side in that matchup.
Yeah, this is the Fat and Sassy Thursday special, guys. You got North Carolina, as Dave said, played the perfect game. It was a laugher. They're yucking it up on the sidelines. You know, you put up 101 points, you blow out. Granted, Notre Dame's not a good basketball team this year, compared to some of the past editions. But it's still that name, Notre Dame, and they just rolled over them. Well, what did they do the game before that? Oh, they played their arch rival Duke. You know, they rolled over them. Another powerhouse name that's not as good as they normally are in past editions. So the stock on North Carolina is as high as it could possibly be, and it's just counterfeit. I'm sorry. They're not as good as they've looked in the last two games, and that'll show tonight. And to steal something else from Dave, when he talked about teams that have, want to play, have a reason to play, maybe it's better to take the game off and lose. Well, North Carolina doesn't need to do anything else. They're there. They're in. Virginia Tech, they need this game, in my opinion. Simply because they haven't played that much. They're going to be focused and come out and want to play tonight and want to get the win. I definitely want to take an underdog that is more motivated, in my opinion, and I feel is the better team. To be honest with you, the wrong team's favored. I like Virginia Tech. I'm taking them. North Carolina, after back-to-back wins the last two seasons, about 3-12 against the spread, as everybody likes to jump on that Carolina Tar Heel bandwagon and inflate those numbers. I'll go ahead and take what I feel was a very, very live dog, Virginia Tech.
All right, Vatek it is. Take the points. Dave, where are you going here tonight for the show?
I'll go to the Big Sky, and the odds makers, I think, are telling you who's supposed to win this game. You've got number 9 seed Montana State taking on number 4 seed Idaho State. Well, the 4 seed should be favored over the 9 seed, right? Nope. Montana State comes the favorite in the game, and with good reason. They're better than Idaho State. Montana State's got at least a couple of decent wins on their schedule in terms of going out of conference and competing. They actually won here at UNLV, which I know that's not a big deal, but for a Big Sky team, it's still a nice step up. Idaho State, their one quality win was late in the season against Eastern Washington in their own conference. The rest of their wins are all against dregs. They're not a very good team. The number 9 seed deserves to be favored here. I'll take Montana State minus the 2.5.
All right, lay it 2.5 there, Montana State. Good stuff. And Stevie Merrill, 2 R's, 1 L, my man. Where are you going here?
Yeah, in honor of Ralph Michaels today, I was very close to using one of those bottom barrel games. Bonus, actually, 2 plays here. So I'll get to the official best bet in a second.
Mississippi Valley State lost last night. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, the other reason I want to mention this game is it's being played at the Orleans Casino, so Marco and Dave can go watch it later tonight. It's at 11 Eastern. And New Mexico State's not an ugly team, but they're playing Texas Rio Grande Valley, Joe Raineri.
Oof.
And there's been a lot of sharp money actually on New Mexico State today. So that caught my eye. I dug into it a little bit. They play extremely slow. So you don't like to lay double digits normally with a slow team, but Rio Grande is one of the worst efficiency offenses in the country, and they like up tempo. So slow down half-court team for a terrible offensive team. I think New Mexico State can blow that game out, and Dave and Marco can enjoy it at the Orleans, outside in the parking lot, of course, because you can't go in and watch it in person. But the game I'm going to use, actually, they could go to also in the parking lot and watch, and that's the UNLV-Utah State game. So I've got a very Vegas theme here tonight. This is at the Thomas and Mack Center. I like the over as my best bet for the show, over the total between UNLV and Utah State. Third time these teams have played this season. The first meeting had only 115 points, but they had 73 points at the half. It just came down to a crawl in the second half. The rematch a few days later was much higher scoring with 157 points. In fact, 3 of the 4 halves this year have had 71 points or more. So I think these teams can put up some points. UNLV is kind of known as a slower team, but they're not a good defensive team. Even with the good shooting percentages allowed and whatnot, their efficiency ratings are not very good defensively. Utah State, a very efficient offense. UNLV played last night. It's their home arena, so they'll be very comfortable. I think that offensive momentum from last night continues. They put up 80 against Air Force, shot 57%, shot 54% last weekend in the regular season finale at Wyoming. So they're in good current form offensively. I think both teams get some points tonight. So another Vegas game here. Utah State and UNLV over the total, over 136.5, 137 are the different lines out there right now.
All right, good stuff there. I was going to congratulate the University of Miami and Jim Larinaga on an amazing job. 2 wins right off the bat in the ACC, but that garbage stops here today against Georgia Tech. Unfortunately, that game's getting ready to tip off here in just a couple of minutes, so I'm going to throw Georgia out there and just say keep an eye on them in the SEC tournament. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, and it's going to start tonight with Missouri. All right, guys, let's take a look and recap those best bets for you one more time. UNLV, Utah State over for Steve at 136.5. Dave, Montana State laid the 2.5. Marco likes Va-Tech, grab those 3.5 points. Georgia Tech, it's getting ready to tip off. I also like Georgia. There's a Georgia theme there. And Oregon laying 9 for the gold sheet. And just a reminder, guys, right now, WagerTalk.com, you can grab Marco's best bets. Dave locked and loaded today, as well as Steve Merrill. Dunk30 is the code you can use for Steve. Grab an all-access pass for the rest of the college basketball season, including the national championship game. Visit them all at WagerTalk.com. On behalf of Marco DeAngelo, Dave Koken, and Steve Merrill, 2 R's and 1 L, guys, hit that bell in the upper right-hand corner, and then, of course, come back and join us again tomorrow as we break it all down for you heading into the weekend. Best of luck with your plays, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.